so much for coming out here and supporting us. My name is Gerhard, and it is my extreme pleasure and honor to give some opening remarks at the Paranormal Roundtable Presents Dogman Cryptid Conference. So just a little bit about myself. I am a cryptozoologist. I'm assuming most of you folks know what that means. I've spent my life investigating accounts and evidence of mysterious animals all over the world. Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, Chupacabra, Mothman, so on and so forth. Upper left-hand corner here, this is when I was 9 years old with the Dogwa tribe in the Amazon jungle. So I tell people I've been investigating cryptids my whole life. Literally since I was 9 years old, I've been a little mini Indiana Jones at that point. And I guess we have some blocking issues. My head is above the... Daniel, is that an issue with my head above the screen, or is that just a frame? I guess it's not a big deal. Okay, there's a headless can in Alaska, if you guys have watched my show, Missing Alaska. I also worked with the San Antonio Zoo as a volunteer educator, and even though I don't have any scientific credentials, I try to approach this material from a scientific perspective. I just want to say with regard to this conference, this is an exchange of ideas, a meeting of minds on a fascinating natural mystery, or perhaps an unnatural mystery. No one here is an expert in the Dogman or any other cryptid. We're all just here to offer our opinions and speculate, and we welcome different opinions. Everyone here is going to have a different takeaway from this event, and we think it's a good thing to bring people here together with different opinions and ideas and just have a cordial discourse about what this phenomenon represents. We don't have to get into fisticuffs because you don't think Dogman is what I think it is. So.
Unless you want to.
Josh was calling it out. So this is a little embarrassing, but my nickname on the Brazoswood High School soccer team was actually Dogman. So that's kind of an interesting synchronicity here that I thought. I was really good at covering people. I was on defense and I was always at the heel. So I was a Dogman in high school. So that's my own personal experience with Dogman. Admittedly, I haven't done as much Dogman research as many of the excellent researchers here have, but my journey started when I saw Linda Gottfried on Inside Edition in 1993 talking about the Beast of Bray Road, and of course I was fascinated, and I made my first pre-hat journey to Bray Road in July of 2001. Here I am at Bray Road at night with a flashlight, and yes, that was before the hat. It's a spooky place, and obviously Dogman is now a national and also international phenomenon, and it's been going on for a very long time, as I'm sure we'll learn from the conferences here, the presentations here today. However, it wasn't really getting a lot of publicity, this phenomenon, until the early 1990s when Linda Gottfried, who's a true pioneer, really started bringing light to these different sightings that were occurring in Wisconsin, Michigan, and elsewhere. I have investigated a werewolf-type creature, and I know people are going to debate about werewolf versus Dogman. Are they the same thing, or are they a different phenomenon? If any of you guys have seen a special I did for the History Channel called The Real Wolf Man, and I do have copies of the DVD available, I investigated a creature called the Beast of Gévaudan. And you think the Beast of LVL was a bad? The Beast of Gévaudan supposedly killed 120 people in 2 years, in 1766 to 1768, by biting off their heads, decapitating them, ripping off their limbs, and disemboweling them. And it was mostly women and children. So I don't know if the Beast of LVL is related. We've all heard the stories about the LVL beast, but Beast of Gévaudan was a pretty bad character too. And it was described as a wolf-like creature. I also investigated accounts of a werewolf or Dogman-type creature down in Vidor, Texas, that killed a number of dogs and terrorized a family by banging on the walls of their house, chasing them out of their property, and so on and so forth. This was in 1978, and I've interviewed the people associated with that particular case. And in terms of Dogman witnesses, I did interview this gentleman named Steve Kruger. Some of you have heard of this account, but Steve works for the Wisconsin Wildlife Management, and in November of 2006, he was picking up deer carcasses off the road at a place called Holy Hill, Wisconsin, and suddenly he felt his truck shaking, and he looked back in the mirror and he said he just saw a huge creature with broad shoulders and a giant wolf-like head dragging the deer carcass out of the back of his pickup truck. And it actually dragged out some other stuff out of the back of his pickup truck, and he was totally terrified, as you might expect. Took off down the road and then eventually kind of crept back. Now, what I think sets Steve apart, and this is something I just want to bring to the attention of the Dogman community, is Steve did something remarkable that I don't know a lot of Dogman witnesses these days are doing. He reported it to officials. He filed a report with the state of Wisconsin and law enforcement. So I'm just wondering if we can get to that point now. I know a lot of people understandably fear ridicule and things like that. And we certainly have a lot of great venues like Paranormal Roundtable and places where we can report our Dogman sightings, but to me this is pretty credible if someone is willing to file a Dogman sighting an account with officials, all right? So hopefully we'll see more of that in the future. Okay, so now a little bit of scientific background, and I'm just going to build a little bit of foundation or case of what I think Dogman isn't, okay? I can't honestly say what I think it is, per se, but what I think it isn't, and I'm going to try to present this to you from a zoological perspective. This is the last relative or ancestor that man and dog share. It's called a Boreoeutherian. This was 80 million years ago, okay? It's a little possum-like animal. This was alive when the dinosaurs were still running around. Gradually over time, it split off into different other species, and those species diverged, and they went gradually like this, and then we went like that, okay? One lineage turned into canids, one turned into primates and hominids, which is what we are. Over 80 million years and evolution, and I understand a lot of people don't always agree with evolution. I'm here to advocate that there is overwhelming evidence of evolution. It's been observed in real time with bacteria. We can find different transitional forms. So on the left, obviously, we have a canid form. This is a quadruped. It walks on 4 legs. It has very narrow hips. It has very narrow shoulders. It has multiple joints in its leg. The bichondrial angle of where the knee or the femur meets the tibia. This is a hominin, a human. We are habitually bipeds. We walk up on like 2 legs. We have a very wide hip structure. We have larger feet. We're built to walk upright. We have broad shoulders that helps us keep our balance. So this is evolution in place. We finally got to the point where we walk upright. Canids walk on all 4. So I know there are people that say, well, there was a dog that suddenly evolved to walk upright. Well, that would have to happen over a very long period of time, and there would have to be a lot of morphological changes there. So my opinion is I do not think that Dogman is an evolutionary product. That's the point I'm trying to make here. To me, it doesn't seem like something that evolved natural in the fossil record. Just my opinion. People like to mention different prehistoric species, like the dire wolf, Canis dirus. Dire wolves are really cool animals that lived during the Ice Age, the Pleistocene. They were, based on recent phylogenetic testing, we know they were not related to wolves. They were more like in the fox family, but they were big and robust, powerful predators. They had very short, stocky legs and powerful bodies. They were mega predators of the Pleistocene. They probably ate things like woolly mammoths and woolly rhinos and big things like that. But they died out, as far as we know, 11,900 years ago. People like to say, well, maybe the Dogman is a surviving dire wolf. Well, the dire wolf has the same issue as other canids. It wasn't really built to walk upright. In fact, it has shorter, stockier legs than modern wolves. But as cryptozoologists and cryptid fans, we like to talk about prehistoric animals surviving. It's fun, it's possible, but in my opinion, the Dogman is not a surviving dire wolf. Nor is it an even more ancient carnivore like an amphicyon or mesonychid. These evolved during the Oligocene about 30, 40 million years ago and lived into the late Miocene, maybe 5 million years ago. They were they were called bear dogs. They had the features of both big canids and, are we okay back there? And bears and dogs. And They had very long tails, and they were super predators, and they were pretty nasty animals. But the Dogman, in my opinion, doesn't really fit the description of a bear dog per se. Again, these were habitual quadrupeds. One of the cooler theories that I've heard tossed around is an ancient type of baboon called Dinopithecus. This was a baboon that lived in Africa. We have fossils that go back to the Miocene, and it does have a long tail. It was probably a quadruped. It was related to modern baboons. But I don't know, what do you guys think? To me, it's kind of got like a dog-like look to its head if you look at a baboon at the zoo. But, you know, same problems that we have with dire wolves and anthocyanonians. This is a very long time ago, as far as we know, that these things died off. But it is cool that people are talking about this as a possible Dogman candidate. Some more pragmatic theories. And all cryptids are cases of composite identity. So with all due respect to eyewitnesses, sometimes people do make mistakes, particularly if it's at night and poor lighting, fleeting glimpses. This is a black bear versus Americanus with mange. And it doesn't look as bear-like as you would expect, right? It has more of a wolf-like look to its head. Bears, we know, can go up on their hind legs for brief periods of time. I asked Steve Kruger if what dragged the deer carcass out of his pickup truck might have been a mangy bear. Now, Steve is an experienced wildlife observer and official, and he said, no, it wasn't a mangy bear. I see a lot of bears and mangy bears, but maybe some people, I'm not saying everybody, maybe some people from time to time see a mangy bear, and maybe a fleeting glimpse, and they think, oh, that was weird. There is a kind of a silly theory that was put out by a cryptozoologist named Dale Drinnen that Dogman is hopping coyotes. That's what people are saying. I think it's kind of silly because it doesn't fit the evidence at all. Coyotes do hop and lunge when they're jumping on rodents and small animals, but I don't think that anyone could mistake a hopping coyote for a Dogman. So I think that was a little bit of a stretch. Some people wonder if Dogman may be a species of Bigfoot. And there are actually some pretty rare accounts of Bigfoots, things like the Horizon City Monster, where multiple eyewitnesses over decades have reported a Bigfoot with very pointy ears and a dog-shaped skull. It's pretty rare, but we do get those. As a Bigfoot investigator of many decades, I don't think Dogman is a Bigfoot. I think they're two separate things entirely, but there are people that think that, and so it's worth discussing. And finally, I'm going to kind of close it at this. As I said, I'm a cryptozoologist. I tend to look at things through the prism of traditional zoology. However, I'm also a very open-minded person. I have friends and colleagues that are paranormal researchers. I have friends who are UFO researchers. I totally advocate the possibility of paranormal, supernatural, extraterrestrial. All of that is possible, okay? And I've experienced some weird things myself. I won't get into that, but what I have noticed, because I've investigated the Mothman and other flying humanoids for decades in Point Pleasant, Mexico, and elsewhere, interviewed dozens of flying humanoid eyewitnesses, I'm seeing a lot of similarities between Dogman and Mothman in terms of what people are seeing and experiencing. It's true they're very different types of creatures, but they are essentially anthropomorphic creatures, meaning they combine the characteristics of a humanoid with an animal, but they also, and more importantly, display unnatural abilities. Mothman can fly at impossible speeds. Its wings are too small for its body. It has red glowing eyes. People that have encountered Mothman have been terrorized, traumatized, have experienced residual, paranormal, and supernatural things in their life. And it's the hyper-aggressive behavior. We can all agree that Dogman seems to display hyper-aggressive behavior that is unnatural for any known animal, like a bear, a wolf, a mountain lion. So do the flying humanoids like Mothman. So hopefully we'll have some discussion today about shape-shifting. And in my, this is just speculation, shooting from the gut, but if the Dogman is some type of supernatural phenomenon, then it's perhaps a phenomenon that can change forms and present itself to eyewitnesses and observers as different types of monsters. That's as far as I can go with that, but hopefully you guys will. But again, we invite you to form your own opinions here today. Talk to all of these excellent researchers and listen to these great presentations, and I'm sure you'll walk away from here with an opinion, okay?